Hey, it's Warrior Grayfawn. Today I'm starting this episode off a little bit differently than previous ones. As always, if you want to play ClanGen yourself, it is in the description below. Full credit goes to Just Some Cat and the SableSteel team for creating this fun game. Today we're going to be going over every cat that has been introduced and talking about how they've been dealing with Star Rebel's accident in the last episode. Because of her accident, she has decided to step down from being leader and retired to the Elder's Den. Stardust was pronounced the new leader of the Sand Colony, and last episode she was given 4 lives to lead her colony with. I personally chose for this University of Cats 5 lives instead of 9, because I thought the stakes would be higher and that the deaths would hold a lot more meaning personally. Stardust only gets 4 because Star Rebel is still alive. Stardust at this stage in life is very happy to be leader because she always dreamed of being leader of her colony. She wasn't really expecting to be made leader like this. She has a lot to prove to the other cats of the colony, and she's at quite a disadvantage of only having 4 lives instead of 5. Currently, the only cats that know she has 4 lives instead of 5 are Tall Whisker and Clover Swoop. She chose not to tell her mate Bumble Ash of her situation because she didn't want to worry her too much. Also, as leader, she has a lot more responsibility to her colony, and so the two haven't been able to be as close as they normally are. Stardust appointed Tall Whisker as deputy of the colony because he's generally well liked and that he's got quite a bit more experience compared to the other cats of the colony. He's very nervous about being made deputy, and he's led patrols before and similar things to that, but being deputy is a lot more responsibility. He's also concerned for his former mentor and mother figure Star Rebel after her accident, and he chooses to visit her quite often. Our healer Clover Swoop has been through so much leading up to this point. She discovered that Bumble Ash is behind quite a few murders, and the stars told her to talk about her situation with Frostwing. They also warned her his actions would endanger 2 lives, and well, Star Rebel is one of those lives. She feels like she let her former leader down, and that if she'd done things a bit differently, maybe Star Rebel would be better. Her mate Greenleg is quite concerned about his mate's condition. He knows that she has been feeling pretty depressed, but as a healer, a lot of the time she can't confide in him the prophecy she receives. He feels like there's quite a bit of distance between them, and this isn't really helped by the fact that they have already lost one of their sons. He knows his son was murdered, but he doesn't know who killed him. He's trying to stay close to his mate so she has someone on her side, but it's tough. Our next warrior is Little Willow. Little Willow is one of Star Rebel's kids, but after her accident, he's chosen to feel the need to prove himself to his colony mates, and largely goes about his business as usual. He leads patrols, hunts, and defends borders to make his parents proud. Picart and Little Willow are acting suspiciously at this time, and 2 moons later it turns out the two are sneaking around because they didn't want to announce yet that they're mates. So right now they're just sneaking around to run together in the moonlight. He also spends time in the nursery with the kits, wondering what it would like to have kids of his own one day. Lost Blaze isn't really getting along with his friends at the moment. He also isn't very kind to Star Rebel and takes his anger out on her. Twigstep hates that he insults his mother like this, and that's largely why the two don't get along anymore. My best guess is that he hates the state his former leader is in and he's ashamed of her. Either way, he's a very grumpy cat at this point of time. Blackberry's Tall Whisker's mate, and she wants to support him in this transitional time period of their lives. The two have always been very close, and Tall Whisker can share his problems with her. For a while now, the two have been wanting to have kids of their own, but right now isn't quite the right time for kids to happen yet, seeing as how emotional Tall Whisker is with the devastating injury his former mentor and mother figure just had. Wolfstep is a loner who joined under Star Rebel's leadership, So I imagine he's very scared about the structure and life under a new leader. I know he probably knows Stardust a little bit, but I don't think they hang around in the same circles as each other. I'm pretty sure though he's scared for no reason. Dustpad's mother is Star Rubble, but he seems to be a relatively calm person, so I think this change hasn't affected him all that much. He likes Stardust as a cat and probably thinks she'll lead without any issues. He's still just as ready to prove himself that he's worthy of maybe becoming a deputy or like a trusted voice to listen to for leaders in the future. Dapplebur is just a scared cat. A lot of things scare him, and I think this change is no different than that. He's keeping his head down and trying to fulfill his duties for the colony, but it's very hard for him. I'm sure his family is supporting him every step of the way. That way in the future, maybe he won't be as scared. Twig's step is huffy with Lost Blaze because Lost Blaze takes his mother out on his mother Rebel Star. Or Star Rebel, Rebel knows. So they're both just not that close as they usually are. We'll just have to see if that ever changes for these two. I think that this experience kind of hardened him a little bit. You can be an insecure person, but also be able to be a stronger person. So I just think that's how he is currently. Pycar and Scorchheart are scared something will happen to their parents. If something could happen to their leader, then it just becomes a little bit more like real. Something could also happen to their parents in the future, and that's just scary for them. I think up until this point, they kind of felt like they were invincible as warriors, and this is just a big change for them. Crowfire wants to hear more about the stars from Cloverswoot because he's now just not sure what happens after cats pass on from this life. Crowfire knows that he has warrior ancestors looking down at him from the stars, but it's a different thing from seeing rather than believing, if that makes sense. He's also kind of been through a lot himself because he had a half-clan relationship, and the resulting kits were placed with him, so now he has, like, some kits that, they're old enough to not need their mother, but he also still has to, like, watch over his kits now that they are getting a bit older and can get into a lot of trouble. It's just another day for Holly Creek, but he likes Star Rebel a little bit since she was the one to take him into the colony in the first place. He also respects her a little bit despite her injury. Before this, he was a rogue, so for him, I'm not too sure if he believes in the stars that much or not, and that probably leaves him questioning what's going to happen to him, like in the afterlife and things like that, because everybody's talking about it. Birchleap wants to connect even more to the stars and spends more time with her mother Cloverswoot, questioning about her ancestors in the stars. Despite Cloverswoot being a little bit closed off to the others, I think she talks quite honestly to her daughter about their ancestors and what they were like, which is just super interesting for her. Soft Eye is super excited about his mother's new position in the colony and what kind of respect that will bring to their family, not just within the colony, but outside the other colonies. He also is a pretty playful cat, so I don't think this would have changed much for him, besides sticking out his chest a little bit more and superiority to the others. Amberhawk feels more comfortable with his mother Stardusk than his mother Bumble Ash, but I feel like he spends an equal amount of time with the both of them. He also likes Star Rebel quite a bit, so I feel like he's the type of cat that helps out with both Star Rebel and Bumble Ash's care. Now that they've both been injured, he probably tosses moss balls to Bumble Ash to help stretch her muscles now that she's in recovery. Frostwing wants to learn more about the stars. Frostwing wants to learn more about the cats Bumble Ash has killed, so he spends time listening to Star Rebel and Waterlight still tells stories about them. Again, he's not that very close to his mother, Bumble Ash, anymore, and spends quite a lot of time away from her as much as possible. I'm sure this makes Stardust a little bit curious about this, but she's very busy and just hasn't had the time to ask. And now onto the nursery. Acorn Whisker is one of Bumble Ash's new kits in the nursery. She's cold personality-wise, but she's also a great hunter, so I imagine she's quite skilled at playing with her litter mates, and probably Amberhawk too. That being said, she's super comfortable and close to both of her parents. Bumble Ash is raising her to be very strict about the warrior code and similar things to that, and because Stardust is so busy, I don't think she's quite aware of how strict she's raising her kits. Flowertail is the third kit of this litter, and he's instead more empathetic, and he's extremely smart. I imagine he's not quite meeting the expectations that Bumble Ash has for him, so I don't think he'll succeed her in any way, which is very annoying for Bumble Ash. Ravenpelt is also one of Bumble Ash's new kits, and because of his strict upbringing, he's got a strict personality type, and he's also being raised to be an excellent hunter by his mother, Bumble Ash. Spikestone is the first of the litter that Crowfur brought in from a half-colony relationship. For some reason, his grandma, Cloverswoop, is super protective of this litter, and I don't think the four cats quite understand why she's so protective of them. Even in the nursery, their grandma is always keeping a keen eye on them, which is probably a good thing because he likes to get into trouble despite being reasonably smart. Springflower dances around excitement about having a new cat to tell stories to them, and the fact that they used to be their leader is just double exciting for the kitten. I don't think he pays that much attention to his grandma Cloverswoop watching out for them, and thinks that it's a pretty reasonable thing for a healer to do, is look out for all cats of the colony, including the smallest members. Skyfeather is the second cat in the litter Crowfur brought home, and he's pretty inquisitive, so I think he's curious why his grandma Cloverswoop is so protective, and asks quite a bit of questions, much to her annoyance, because she can't quite outright tell a small kitten what is going on. Finally, the Elder's Den. Bumble Ash is quite bitter now that she has all these eyes on her in the colony. She can't quite get away with as much as she used to, now that cats are looking out for her in case she needs any help. She wants to raise her kittens with respect for the rules, so that way they can be just like her in some aspects. Her current kits, Ravenpelt and Acorn Whiskers, are coming along quite well in this regard, but Flowertail is kind of giving her no hope for the future. Time will tell if these two kits will be just like her or not, and that is a murderer with a future in the Dark Forest. Waterlight spends much of his time helping his mate Star Rebel out with her daily duties. I think he's much happier now that there are other cats in the Elder's Den besides himself, and it makes him feel a bit more useful because he's insecure, and for a while now he thought he was just a burden for the colony. As Star Rebel is being more rehabilitated, I don't think she'll need quite as much help around the camp, but he's still not far watching out for her. Star Rebel is very insecure now that she is an elder with such a bad injury. Her rehabilitation is going quite well, but she fears being useless now that she can't lead her colony. She wonders what kind of future is there for her, and if her ancestors will be mad at her and maybe punish her for stepping down from leadership, but she knows it was the right thing to do. It's very hard to fight when you're constantly shaking and you're not able to do the things you used to do. Anyway, that is all the cats for this roundup of the sand colony, so to speak. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe so that way you can see more in the future. I also have a link in the description because for every 100 milestones, I draw cats suggested by you guys. So use that link to comment your cat, and I might pick them in the next video for that little series. I also have other things going on, So you might be interested in the other things going on, I don't know. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.